Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about Tianlang Volcom and why I think Volt Team is in a controversial state for global. To start with, let's first talk about the history of Volt Team on CN server. Back in version 1.0, Volt Team was pretty much the only viable meta team comp consisting of Nemesis, being the only weapon that has resonance system, and also a powerful cloud character called Baiyue. Bai has the insane burst damage and shatter capability, and features damage increase based on HP lost. However, when Vera comes, the new round of weapons, i.e. Ruby, Saki, and then Lyra, quickly overshadows Bai and Nemesis combo. Since Bai is a rare collab character, the devs try to bump it up a bit by giving Ling extra buff in the Volt branch in her skill. And then it comes Tianlang. Surprisingly, rather than try to build a brand new playstyle so that people who miss Bai can try something different, Tianlang went further down the road. Its kit is basically tailor-made for Bai to even do more damage to close in the gap between Volt and the other team. But since Lin already gives extra buff for Volt, the dev has to somehow make the Tian plus Bai plus Lin comp weaker so that it's not utterly broken. And that leads to the Tianlang refund drama, because when people test the weapon in the test server, they found that Tian will actually work with Lin, but then when it comes live, it did not work with Lin. So dev simply changes the wording of Volt Resonance in Tianlang's passive to Volt Reaction, so that Lin's passive, which needs you to trigger Volt Resonance, won't be effective. But the problem is, the second round of weapons, i.e. Annabella, Alice, and Umi, who will be out in just a few days, power creep Volcom once again. At the current stage, the Volcom's damage is really not impressive compared to Ice and Fire. And you're talking about self-damaging and risky playstyle. On the other hand, Physical Team just has pretty much the same damage but has much better survivability. For a global version, it is pretty much confirmed that collab characters will not come. So without Bai, the Volt team really lacks an efficient shield breaker and driver. Nevertheless, Tian plus Nemesis plus Lin or triple Volcom is still a viable team comp, and that's what I will be introducing in this video. Okay, so now let's talk about Tianlang's skill set. To start with, his normal attack. Every 4 normal attacks you do, you can charge up your weapon, and you can have maximum 5 charges. The charge is gonna make any Volt weapon deal additional dodge attack. Now, that damage is equal to 5% times your HP lost. That value will not be less than a certain value and will not exceed a certain value. Now, this value here is probably gonna change in global, so I will not be going over them. It will also make yourself an inductor, and it will unleash an AoE Volt attack, and then the damage is also based on your HP lost. And you will be losing HP all the time because that's part of Tianlang's passive. Every time you use a Volt weapon, skill, or discharge, you will lose like 30% of your max HP. And now you want to charge up your weapon fast, so you want to do this spinning move. So what you do is you hold left click, so you do this. It hits very fast. It will also charge your discharge very fast. And let me just do this. Now you can see I just do 1 round of spinning move. I already gained 2 charges. So now you can see 2 numbers. One number is the original dodge attack, and then the second number is from your inductor because you're making yourself an inductor. So let me do this again. You can see the dodge attack deals about like 70k damage, and that's with the charge. So now I don't have my weapon charge, and you can see I'm only hitting like 50k. So that's part of that's Tianlang's normal attack buff. Okay, so now let's talk about the weapon skill. The weapon skill is able to make enemies or your own pet inductors, and you can have maximum 3 inductors. Now, similar to the inductors you made by doing normal attacks, these inductors will unleash AoE Volt attack, and then the damage is based on your HP loss. And you trigger this AoE attack by unleashing any Volt weapon discharge. In addition, after you cast the weapon skill, you will gain additional Volt damage buff based on how many other Volt weapons you have. So if you have Tianlang and 1 extra Volt weapon, you will gain 15%. If you have 2 extra Volt weapons, then you have 30% Volt damage buff. Now this feature is nice, especially for those who don't have Lin or don't want to pull Lin. And you can just run a triple Volt weapon comp to gain that 30% Volt damage buff. So now this is a passive. You don't have to cast the weapon skill to trigger this. As long as you bring Tianlang's weapon, then every time you cast Volt weapon skill or discharge, you will lose 30% of your current HP to deal additional Volt damage. And also gain invisibility frame when you cast the skill or discharge. Now, the invisibility frames last about 2 or 3 seconds, so it really helps you to survive, because otherwise you keep losing HP, you will become a glass cannon and die in 1 hit. And also, after 8 seconds casting the weapon skill or discharge, or if your weapon drops below 10%, then you will gain a self-healing state. You will heal yourself 5% for 8 seconds. So, and you can see here you're losing 30% HP, but then you can gain 40% back. Now, you do have to somehow survive, because your invisibility frame is only 2 or 3 seconds. So you have to somehow survive for another 5 or 6 seconds so that you can gain your lost HP back. So let me do a quick demonstration. So you can see after I use any Volt weapon skill, I lose like 30% of my HP. You can also see like a little square under the mob indicating they have become an inductor, so that every time you use other Volt weapon discharge, it will deal additional Volt damage. And as you can see, I lose further HP because I just use Nemesis discharge, right? Now if I use weapon skill again, it's also gonna, make me lose more HP. If I use Tianlang's weapon, it's gonna make me lose more HP. And this is what keeps me kinda demotivated to play a Volt comp. I don't like to see my HP low, because I just feel like I will get one-shotted. And then you do have to time your skill, because remember that invisibility frame is only 2 or 3 seconds. You gotta know like what the mobs or the boss moveset is, so that you can really, make use of that invisibility frame. Okay, so now let's talk about team comp and chip options. I highly recommend any dedicated Volt players to get Tianlang 4-piece chip. I know this is not that accessible for free-to-play or low spenders, but if you manage your resources and save only for one element, you should be able to pull the full chipset. This chipset is great because it's completely off-field, meaning that the weapon that equips this does not need to be on the field to activate the bonus. The 2-piece bonus is that every time you deal Volt damage, you have 40% chance to cast Lightning Chain that can hit up to 7 targets. So it's a good AoE attack. And after you cast Lightning Chain, you gain some Volt damage increase. The 4-piece bonus just gives you more damage increase, Volt damage increase every time you cast Volt skill or Volt discharge. And typically you will want Nemesis because Tianlang always self-damage himself, and Nemesis healing capability is really handful here. It really helps you stay alive, and typically Nemesis should equip Tianlang's chip because she is most of the time off-field, In my case, I've already pulled the full chipset and I don't want to toss it away, so I put 4-piece Nemesis on Nemesis herself. But theoretically, for the highest damage possible, you should put 4-piece Tianlang on Nemesis and 2 Samir and 2 Crow on Tianlang or whoever is the driver. And the third option is usually Lin, because there's not other good option for like a damage buffer or off-field damage dealer. Lin is pretty much the only option here because you guys don't have Byakuei. And like I said before in the beginning of the video, Lin has insane buff for the Volt weapon. It gives you 65% chance of not consuming any stamina bar when you do dodge attack. Makes you deal more dodge attack, and also when you trigger Volt Resonance, it gives you extra Volt damage. And these buffs are better than any other elements. Like I said before, it's the dev try to close in the gap between Volt and other elements. But in global, since you guys don't have Byakuei, I expect the devs to make some changes. Nevertheless, I still think Lin is the best option here, especially she's the only weapon that can make full use of her chip. Her chip is a universal off-field, similar to Tianlang chip, completely off-field. But if you can't afford this, as a free-to-play or low spender, you can just put 4-piece Shiro on your Lin. If you can't even afford Lin herself, you can just put any other Volt weapon like Crow or Samir. But the problem with Crow or Samir, for example Samir, is that you now have 2 on-field carry weapon, and for example, if Tianlang is on the field, Samir will not add any value to the team. And even for the driver, Tianlang himself has better scaling than Samir, because remember, Volt team is about spamming dodge attack, and you do want to make use of this dodge buffing passive and an inductor passive, so that ideally the best driver should have a good dodge attack scaling. And you can see here Tianlang himself has like 170, but if you go to Samir, it's only like 130 something. And then in addition, this is a uppercut kick, so it will stay airborne. That's gonna slow your damage dealing process, because you can't really just simply spam dodge attack. So actually a better option is like a A6 Crow if you don't want to use Lin, because A6 Crow gives you additional Volt damage increase, like 20%. So all you do with Crow is you cast his weapon skill and then you swap to Tianlang to do damage. To conclude, I still think the Tianlang plus Nemesis plus Lin is the best team comp for global, even though this team has some problems in shield breaking. But these days, what you care about the most is just dishing out damage, even in Bygone and in multiplayer content. You usually have your tanks to worry about shield break, so this is like not a big deal. But still, compared to CN that has Byakuei, I think global Volt comp is in a somewhat controversial state, like I said in the beginning of the video. But let's just hope that dev will make some changes or balance here and there to make Volt comp as viable as other elements. Okay, finally let's talk about Tianlang Ascension. His 1-star is that every time you charge weapon using normal attack, you gain 1 layer of superconduct effect. You gain 20% maximum HP, but also you take 12% more damage, and you can have 8 layers. So you're looking at 160% maximum HP increase and 96% more damage taken. Now this is basically means that you will lose more HP, but then you will have the similar survivability. Because remember, Tianlang's damage is based on the HP you lose. So if you lose HP, but then you also gain more maximum HP, so you will have more damage to deal, but keep the same survivability as before. So this is a straight up. I mean, it reads complicatedly, but it basically means you do more damage. And 3-star is a very uh, quality of life improvement because 3-star allows you that you don't have to use your normal attack to charge your weapon. So every time you use Volt weapon skill or discharge, you gain 2 charges. So it really smooths out your damage dealing process, so you don't have to use the normal attacks, which is time consuming. In addition, you will also gain hyper armor when you have 8 layers of super conduct. And he's 5-star and 6-star is basically makes you deal more damage. So I think if you're not a whale that maxes everything, 1-star or 3-star is usually a good place to stop. And finally, I would love to give a rotation showcase, but unfortunately, I don't really play Tianlang that much. What I did is I just stay with Baiyu Kui with Tianlang's chip equipped on Baiyu Kui. And to be honest, I'm not a great fan of Tianlang being self-damaging all the time, and I don't like to see my HP bar low all the time. And in Bygone, like especially high floors, like above 500, you get 1 shot or 2 shots all the time. So if you're not familiar with the movesets of the mobs, then the self-damaging is really really nasty, even though you have that 2 or 3 seconds invisibility frame. But I'm just not a big fan of it, because the fire calm is safe because it has slow and its range. The physical calm is just Lyra with Aura that has self-healing and shielding. And the ice calm, you have a lot of invisibility frames because you just cast skills or discharge all the time. And you also have self-healing and crowd control. And that's why I'm not a big fan of Volcom myself. I hope the new DJ girl, I think it's pretty much confirmed that she's a Volt character. I really wish that they can make something different rather than just send her around, making Baiyu Kui better. I really hope that the new Volt weapon can give us a new playstyle. But that's everything here. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.